Hi class, in this video I'm going to show you some examples that involve triangle congruency statements. This example says use the given diagram of the rectangle to indicate whether the following statements are true or false. The rectangle with the diagonal going down the middle splits it into two equal right triangles. Statement A is triangle ABD congruent to triangle CDB. So the order of these letters is important. So A, then down the short leg to B, and down the hypotenuse to D. Is that the same as C, down the short leg to D, and then up the hypotenuse to B? And yes, that is. So this is a true statement. Question B is angle ABD, is that congruent to angle CDB? And notice that it's the same order as the previous question, and since the triangles are congruent in question A, then we also can say those angles are congruent. It's talking about ABD, which I'm marking here in green, and CDB, I'm also marking in green. And so that's a true statement. C says is triangle ABD, so ABD, is that congruent to DCB? So if we start at D and go up the short leg and then down the long leg. Even though it's talking about the same triangle, because the order of the vertices in the second triangle does not match the order in the first triangle, this is a false statement. Okay, this next question just simply asks if these two triangles are congruent. Notice that we have one side marked congruent, we have a second side marked congruent. There's no information given about the angles. According to the reflective property, this middle segment that they share is congruent to itself. And so we can conclude that yes, these two triangles are congruent by the congruency statement side, side, side. Take a look at these two triangles. Notice that two sides that are congruent, so this is a side, and then notice that this first one, the angle is the included angle between the two sides. This angle, even though it has a congruent marking that they're congruent, it's not included in between the leg that has the two congruent marks and the leg that has the single. Because of that, and because we don't know any other information about the other angles or the third side, we conclude these are not congruent triangles. Okay, take a look at this picture. We have one pair of sides that's congruent, one pair of angles congruent. Just looking at this picture, we can mark these two angles are congruent because those two are vertical angles, and we've learned in a previous unit that vertical angles are congruent. And so we have an angle, angle, side, and that is a congruency statement. So we can say, yes, these triangles are congruent by the congruency statement, angle, angle, side. Okay, take a look at these two triangles. It says determine whether the given information is enough to conclude triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. Listen carefully to how it was read. You're determining whether the given information is enough. Right now, the only thing that's been marked is that there's three pairs of congruent angles, but there's no information about the lengths of the side. And so for this question, we have to choose no because there is not an AAA congruency statement. Okay, in this question, we have two triangles, triangle AHQ and triangle BID, and it says they are congruent, and it's given us a little information. So it says if angle H and I are congruent. I'm going to go ahead and just mark these. Here's H and here's I, and the segments HQ and ID are also given to us. And here's your question. What additional information needs to be true to use the ASA congruency axiom? Congruency axiom is the same as a congruency statement, just different books use different words. So we need to mark what additional information is needed in order to use the angle side angle congruency statement. So if you look at the picture, we have one angle and a side, and so angle side angle means two angles next to each other with the included side, and we need Q to be congruent to D, and that is the second choice. And I want to point out real quickly, we could have also selected this one if we knew information about the other two sides. the triangles would also be congruent, but since this question specifically asks for angle side angle, that's why answer choice 2 is the only correct answer. Okay, next we have two triangles again, and we have one pair of congruent angles, one pair of congruent sides. That's the only information that we have on these triangles. And so this is no, there's not enough information to prove that these two triangles are congruent. Okay, this is the last question on this video, asking about the congruency statement specifically for right triangles. So each pair of triangles are all right triangles. The first one is we know the longer side is 2.6, and then we have another side that's 2.0. Which theorem is that? This is the leg theorem. B, we know information about the length of the hypotenuse and one angle. And so that's an example of the HA theorem, the hypotenuse angle congruency theorem. This last one, we have congruent hypotenuse lengths, and the shorter side is also congruent. This is an example of the hypotenuse leg theorem, which is the HL theorem. That's all the questions on this video. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'd love to give you some extra help.